when Emma Rodriguez faced brutal harassment at LAX airport. Security guards questioned her documents and passengers called her a troublemaker. Hours later, when the captain collapsed at 30,000 feet and 180 lives hung in the balance, those same people discovered the woman they'd humiliated was their only hope for survival. Before you full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Emma Rodriguez stood in line at Gate 47 clutching her boarding pass. Los Angeles International Airport buzzed with pre-flight energy, but something felt different today. The looks she was getting weren't typical traveler glances. "Next," called the gate agent, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes. Emma approached with a polite smile. "Good morning. I'm checking in for Flight 892 to New York." The agent looked at Emma's boarding pass, then at her face. Her expression shifted. "Rodriguez, that's your real name?" "Yes, ma'am." "Is there a problem?" "I need additional identification." "And your passport?" Emma frowned. "This is a domestic flight. My driver's license should be enough." "Not today. We've had security alerts about fake documents." The agent's voice grew louder, drawing attention. Emma pulled out her passport, trying to keep calm. Behind her, whispers started. "Look at her arguing," someone muttered. "Probably doesn't have proper papers," another voice added. The gate agent examined Emma's documents with unnecessary scrutiny. "These look suspicious. I'm calling security." "Ma'am, those are legitimate government documents. I've traveled with them many times. Don't tell me how to do my job." "Security to Gate 47, please." Passengers began pulling out phones, some recording. Emma felt her cheeks burn but kept her composure. 2 security guards arrived. One tall and stern, the other shorter with suspicious eyes. "What's the problem?" asked the tall guard. "This woman is being difficult about document verification," the agent explained. "Her papers might be fake." Emma's heart raced. "Officers, my documents are legitimate. I'm a U.S. citizen traveling for business." The shorter guard snatched her documents. "Business? What kind? You look young to be some big consultant." "I'm an aviation consultant." It wasn't entirely a lie, though she left out her military background. The crowd around Gate 47 grew. Other passengers looked at her with judgment. Some seemed sympathetic, but most assumed she was causing trouble. "Can we handle this privately?" Emma asked. "I haven't done anything wrong." "If you're innocent, you shouldn't mind answering questions here," the tall guard said. "Where were you born?" "San Antonio, Texas." "Prove it." Emma's jaw tightened. "My documents clearly show my birthplace." "Documents can be faked," the shorter guard said. "This doesn't look right." A man in an expensive suit stepped forward. "Some of us have flights to catch. Can you move this along?" The gate agent looked apologetic. "Sorry, sir. We're ensuring everyone's safety." "Maybe she should have brought proper documents," the man said, glaring at Emma. More passengers expressed impatience. "Holding up the whole line? Probably doesn't belong here. Why do they always cause problems?" Emma felt the weight of their stares. She had faced discrimination before, but never so publicly. "Officers, I've been flying for 15 years. Never had issues with documentation." 15 years? The shorter guard laughed. "You don't look old enough." "I'm 32. "So you started at 17? "Right." His tone was mocking. Emma realized she'd said too much. Her military training had started young, but she couldn't explain without revealing her background. "I just want to board my flight like everyone else." "Step aside while we verify your information," the tall guard said. "This could take hours." The gate agent announced boarding for Flight 892. Emma watched her line move forward while she was directed to a corner area, separated from other passengers. As she waited, Emma overheard conversations. She was trying to board with fake documents, probably trying to sneak into the country. They should send her back where she came from. Emma closed her eyes and took deep breaths, the way she'd learned during military training. She thought about enemy fire, impossible missions, lives saved. This was just another challenge, but it hurt more than expected. These people judged her on appearance and name alone. They didn't know about her service, sacrifices, achievements. To them, she was just a problem. After an hour of document examination, the guards weren't satisfied. They called a supervisor who looked at Emma with the same suspicion. "Miss Rodriguez, we're having trouble verifying your employment. Your company doesn't answer." "It's after hours on the East Coast," Emma explained. "Convenient excuse." They led her to a small interrogation room. For another hour, they asked repetitive questions. Birthplace, job, travel purpose, payment source. Each truthful answer seemed to increase their suspicion. You say you're a consultant, but haven't filed tax returns in 3 years, the supervisor noted. I was overseas working for the government. I filed appropriate overseas forms. Doing what overseas? Emma hesitated. She couldn't discuss classified military missions. Government contract work. I can't discuss details. How convenient. Another unprovable claim. Through the window, Emma saw her gate empty. Flight 892 had departed without her. My flight is gone, she said quietly. There will be others. Martinez said without sympathy, if you're really who you claim. After 4 hours, they finally cleared her. The supervisor approached reluctantly. Your documents check out, he said, making it sound like personal failure. You're cleared for travel. Thank you, Emma replied, feeling no gratitude. We'll be watching you. Any future problems, and we'll remember this incident. Emma rebooked on the 8 a.m. flight, paying an additional $300 change fee. At her hotel that evening, she reflected on her Air Force years, the respect she'd earned regardless of background, the lives she'd saved. But in civilian life, none of that mattered. Here, she was just another person to suspect. Emma had left the military 2 years earlier after losing her best friend and co-pilot in a mission. The grief made flying combat aircraft impossible. She'd moved to civilian consulting, helping airlines improve safety protocols. Meaningful work but lacking the intensity of military service. The next morning, Emma arrived early, determined to avoid drama. But at security, she was again selected for additional screening. She submitted without complaint, noting the irony of being searched by people with a fraction of her security clearance. At gate 23, she chose a seat away from crowds, but trouble found her anyway. Are you the woman who caused commotion yesterday? Emma looked up at an elderly man staring down disapprovingly. I didn't cause any commotion. I was trying to board my flight. You held up everyone's travel. Some missed connections because of you. I was detained by security through no fault of my own. That's not what I heard. You were arguing with agents, other passengers noticed. Emma recognized faces from yesterday's crowd. Sir, I don't want to discuss this. I just want to travel peacefully. Should have thought about that before trying to sneak onto planes with fake documents. My documents weren't fake. The man addressed other passengers. This is the woman who held up Flight 892 yesterday. Made everyone late with improper identification. Emma felt familiar stares and whispers. A woman with children approached. Could you move? I don't want my kids near someone who might cause trouble. Emma moved to another section, but whispers followed. Should be on no-fly list. Probably trying again with different documents. Why do they let people like that travel? When boarding began, Emma waited for her group. The gate agent smiled genuinely. Have a good flight. Miss Rodriguez, thank you, Emma replied, relieved by normal treatment. But behind her, the elderly man spoke loudly. Can't believe they're letting her board after yesterday's trouble. Emma quickened her pace toward the aircraft. Emma found her seat, 14F. Window and coach. The passenger beside her, a businessman, made a show of moving his briefcase away when she sat down. When Emma needed the restroom, he sighed heavily about people who couldn't plan ahead. Flight attendants were professional but distant. Water requests were met curtly while other passengers received smiles and conversation. About an hour into the flight, Emma noticed unusual cockpit activity. Flight attendants moved quickly between galley and cockpit, expressions tense. One used the cockpit phone repeatedly, speaking urgently. Emma's military training activated. She recognized emergency signs developing, even as other passengers remained oblivious. The captain's voice came over intercom, but something was wrong. His speech was slurred, breathing heavy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We're experiencing minor, technical difficulties. Nothing concerning. We'll have you in New York on schedule. Emma frowned. That didn't sound like technical difficulties. That sounded like medical emergency. Her suspicions, confirmed when she saw a flight attendant rushing toward the cockpit with the aircraft's portable defibrillator. The businessman beside her was absorbed in his laptop, hadn't noticed anything. Most passengers were reading, sleeping, or watching entertainment. They had no idea their lives might be in danger. Emma unbuckled and stood, intending to offer assistance. But before she could move, the plane lurched violently left. Unbuckled passengers were thrown from seats. Drink items crashed. Oxygen masks deployed as the aircraft began uncontrolled descent. In the chaos, Emma heard the co-pilot's panicked voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to seats immediately and fasten seatbelts. We are experiencing an emergency." Emma knew from the aircraft's behavior they were in real trouble. As a former military pilot, she could tell they were losing altitude rapidly, flight controls responding sluggishly. Through her window, she saw rocky mountains below. If they crashed here, no survivors. The aircraft continued erratic behavior for several terrifying minutes. Emma watched passengers panic as the plane pitched and rolled unpredictably. Some prayed, others called loved ones. Many were frozen in fear. A flight attendant struggled up the aisle using seatbacks for support. "Is everyone okay?" she called out, voice strained. "What's happening?" shouted the businessman. "Are we going to crash?" "Please remain calm and keep seatbelts fastened," she replied, fear evident in her voice. Emma stood despite the aircraft's instability and approached the attendant. "Excuse me, I have aviation experience. Can I help?" The attendant looked surprised and skeptical. "Ma'am, please return to your seat. I'm serious. I'm a pilot." "What's the situation?" "Ma'am, I need you to—" The aircraft suddenly dropped several thousand feet in free fall. Screams filled the cabin as passengers pressed against seats by G-forces. When the plane somewhat leveled, Emma pressed her advantage. "That wasn't turbulence. That was loss of control. I can help." The attendant hesitated. "You're really a pilot?" "Former Air Force. I've flown fighters to cargo planes." Another crew member approached, the senior flight attendant. "Jennifer." "Sarah, we need to talk," Jennifer said urgently, then noticed Emma. "Ma'am, return to your seat." "She says she's a pilot," Sarah explained. Jennifer looked at Emma with desperate hope. "Are you really a pilot?" "Yes, former Air Force Captain Emma Rodriguez. Over 3,000 flight hours in military aircraft, commercial ratings for multiple types." Jennifer made a quick decision. "Come with me." As they moved toward the cockpit, Jennifer explained urgently, "Captain Morrison collapsed 10 minutes ago. Heart attack. Co-pilot First Officer Stevens is flying, but he's never handled emergency this magnitude. He's shaken." Emma's mind raced. Single pilot operation in emergency was extremely dangerous, especially with inexperienced or panicked pilot. What's Stevens's flight time? Relatively new. Maybe 2,000 hours total, mostly as co-pilot. That explained erratic behavior. Stevens was probably fighting the aircraft instead of flying smoothly. They reached the cockpit. Jennifer knocked in crew identification pattern. "It's Jennifer with someone who can help." The door opened, revealing First Officer Stevens, barely holding together, his shirt soaked with sweat, hands shaking on controls. Behind him, Captain Morrison was unconscious with a flight attendant monitoring vitals. "Thank God," Stevens said, seeing Jennifer. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this airborne." "This is Emma Rodriguez," Jennifer said. "Former Air Force pilot." Stevens looked hopeful but skeptical. "Air Force? What did you fly?" "F-16s, C-130s, and I'm rated on Boeing 737s commercially. This is a 737-800, but I don't know if passengers can right now." "I don't care about regulations," Jennifer interrupted. "We have 180 people who want to get home alive," Emma assessed quickly. Aircraft still descending slowly, off-planned route. Several warning lights illuminated. "What happened before the captain collapsed?" "We hit turbulence, then captain complained of chest pains. He was declaring emergency when he collapsed." Emma looked at navigation displays. They were over Colorado, well off route to New York. "Stevens, stay calm," Emma said in her crisis tone. "You're doing fine, but I'll help get everyone home safely." Emma took the co-pilot seat, studying instruments. They were at 23,000 feet, descending 500 feet per minute, concerning but not immediately dangerous. Autopilot was off, meaning Stevens was hand-flying in difficult conditions. "First, let's get autopilot back on and stabilize altitude," Emma said. "I tried, but it keeps disconnecting," Stevens replied. Voice tight with stress, Emma spotted the problem. "Flight director is off. Turn it back on, then engage autopilot." Stevens followed instructions. The aircraft immediately flew smoother as computer took over. "Good. Now we declare emergency and find nearest suitable airport. Jennifer, get me emergency checklist." As Jennifer retrieved the checklist, Emma studied their position. Stevens' fuel situation? About 4 hours remaining. Good, we have options, Emma pointed to display. Denver International is 150 miles southwest. Best bet for emergency landing. But I've never landed at Denver, Stevens said, panic rising. Crazy crosswinds, altitude makes approach tricky. I have, Emma said calmly. Many times. I'll talk you through it. Emma took headset, contacted air traffic control. Denver Center, United 892, we have medical emergency. Captain incapacitated, need vectors to nearest suitable airport. United 892, Denver Center. Say nature of emergency and souls on board. Denver Center, United 892. Unconscious captain due to medical emergency. First officer flying with assistance. 80 souls on board, 4 hours fuel. Requesting vectors to Denver International. United 892, roger. Turn right heading 240. Descend, maintain 15,000. Denver International 140 miles at 2 o'clock. Emergency equipment being notified. As United 892 began descent toward Denver, Emma coordinated with air traffic control while Stevens flew the aircraft. Denver approach United 892, descending through 12,000 for 8,000. United 892 Denver approach. Fly heading 180, descend, maintain 8,000. You're number 1 for runway 16R. Emergency equipment standing by. Emma turned to Stevens. How are you feeling? Better with a plan, but still nervous about approach. Denver's at 5,400 feet elevation. Thinner air means we'll be going faster. Right, I'll talk you through every step. Approach speed about 15 knots faster than sea level. Higher descent rate needed. Behind them, Captain Morrison remained unconscious but stable. Heart rate steady, breathing regular. Stevens, get familiar with the approach, Emma said, pulling up charts. Runway 16R is 12,000 feet long, 150 wide. Plenty of room. Wind was southeast at 15 knots, not ideal, but manageable. United 892, turn left heading 120. Descend, maintain 6,000. Cleared ILS runway 16R approach. This is where it gets intensive, Emma told Stevens. Configure for approach. Flaps 5, gear down. Stevens followed instructions. Aircraft slowed and descended more steeply. Good. Speed back to 180 knots, continue descent. As they intercepted the landing system, Emma fine-tuned approach parameters while Stevens concentrated on flying. Stevens, you're doing great. Follow the flight director, maintain descent rate. United 892, Denver Tower. Cleared to land runway 16R, fire rescue in position. Emma could see the airport ahead. This was what she'd trained for. Even in crisis, flying felt natural. Flaps 15, speed 160, she called out. They were on final approach, less than 5 miles from runway. Emergency vehicles lined up alongside. Flaps 30, landing checklist complete. This is it, Stevens said, knuckles white on controls. You've got this. Just like any other landing. Ground speed will be higher due to altitude, but approach is the same. As United 892 descended through 1,000 feet, Emma provided steady guidance. Looking good, Stevens. Airspeed on target, slightly left of center line. Small correction, right? Stevens adjusted, runway came into perfect alignment. 500 feet. Speed good, sync rate good. Emergency vehicles were visible along the runway. 300 feet. You're doing great. Stevens was flying the approach perfectly, initial panic replaced by focused concentration. 100 feet. Start your flare now. Stevens gently pulled back, raising the nose to slow descent just before touchdown. 50 feet. 40. 30. 20. 10. Main gear touched runway 16R with barely a bump. Stevens deployed speed brakes, applied reverse thrust while Emma worked brakes. Excellent landing, Emma said as they slowed. You did fantastic. Denver Tower, United 892 down safely, Emma transmitted. United 892, excellent job. Taxi clear when able. Emergency vehicles will escort to gate. As they turned off runway, Stevens was shaking. From adrenaline, not fear. Stevens, you should be proud. Textbook flying under extremely difficult circumstances. Couldn't have done it without you. When Captain Morrison collapsed, I thought we were all going to die. Behind them, Morrison was stirring. Vital signs improving. He's going to be okay, the flight attendant reported. Paramedics will take care of him at the gate. As they taxied to terminal, Emma reflected on the past hour. When she'd boarded, she was just another passenger. One many wished wasn't there. Now she was the reason 180 people were going home alive. The irony wasn't lost. The same people who had harassed her, questioned her right to be on aircraft, treated her with suspicion were now safe because of her skills. As Flight 892 stopped at the gate, emergency vehicles surrounded the aircraft. Paramedics boarded to attend Captain Morrison while officials assessed the situation. Emma remained in cockpit, helping Stevens complete post-flight checklist and shutdown procedures, ensuring everything was documented for investigation. "Ms. Rodriguez," said a voice behind her. A man in airline uniform approached. "Mark Thompson, Chief Pilot." "Captain Thompson. I understand you assisted with this emergency. Tell me about your qualifications." Emma provided a brief summary of her military and civilian experience. Thompson took notes, asked detailed questions. "Captain Rodriguez, on behalf of the airline and everyone aboard, thank you. You may have saved 180 lives today. First Officer Stevens deserves credit. He flew beautifully. I just provided guidance. From what I'm hearing, it was much more than guidance." As they spoke, passengers were deplaning. Many looked shaken but grateful. Jennifer, the senior flight attendant, approached with tears. "I owe you an apology. When you first offered help, I almost turned you away. No apology needed. You were following procedures, protecting passengers. Exactly what you should do. But if I had turned you away, I don't want to think what might have happened." Captain Thompson cleared his throat. "Ms. Rodriguez, are you currently employed by an airline?" "No, I do consulting work. Aviation safety and training. Would you be interested in discussing a position? We could use someone with your experience." Emma smiled but shook her head. "I appreciate it, but I'm not ready for regular flying yet." "I understand. But if you change your mind, call me." He handed her his card. As Emma gathered belongings and prepared to leave, several passengers approached. These weren't the people who'd harassed her. They were passengers from the front who'd witnessed her role. "Are you the pilot who helped land the plane?" asked a woman in her 60s. "I assisted the co-pilot, yes. Thank you. My daughter's getting married next weekend. Because of you, I'll be there." Similar conversations happened as Emma made her way off aircraft. Passengers thanked her, shook her hand, expressed gratitude. But entering the terminal, Emma encountered familiar faces from LAX. The elderly man who'd complained about her causing commotion was talking to airline personnel. "That's her," he was saying. "She held everyone up yesterday with fake documents." The airline representative looked confused. "Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. Ms. Rodriguez helped save this flight." "What?" "Impossible. She's just some troublemaker." "Sir, Ms. Rodriguez is a former Air Force captain and experienced pilot. When our captain became incapacitated, she assisted in safely landing the aircraft. Everyone aboard owes her their lives." The man's face went pale. He looked at Emma with shock and shame. I didn't know," he stammered. "No," Emma replied quietly. "You didn't know. But you were quick to judge anyway." Emma walked past him toward baggage claim, leaving him in stunned silence. As she waited for luggage, more passengers approached. Some thanked her directly, others nodded respectfully. Word was spreading about what happened. A news crew arrived requesting interview. Emma declined, preferring to let the airline handle media. "Just one question," the reporter persisted. "How did it feel to save those people after being harassed yesterday?" Emma paused, considering carefully. "I didn't save anyone to prove a point. I helped because people needed help and I had skills to provide it. That's what anyone should do. But doesn't it bother you that people who mistrusted you owe you their lives? Everyone deserves dignity and respect, regardless of background or appearance. What happened yesterday was wrong, but I don't take satisfaction in proving people wrong. I take satisfaction knowing 180 people got home safely to their families." Over the following weeks, the emergency landing made national news. Despite Emma's attempts to avoid publicity, her role became widely known. Aviation industry press covered it extensively. Emma continued declining most interviews, but agreed to one with an aviation magazine to set the record straight. "The real hero is First Officer Stevens," she emphasized. "He maintained control under extremely difficult circumstances. I simply provided guidance based on experience." The interviewer pressed about the harassment. "How did the airport difficulties affect your decision to help during emergency?" "It didn't affect my decision at all. When people are in danger, you help if you can. It doesn't matter how they've treated you. But surely you felt satisfaction proving those people wrong." Emma shook her head. "I didn't prove anything. I just did what needed to be done. The real lesson isn't about proving people wrong. It's about not making assumptions in the first place. The article focused on technical aspects but touched on broader themes of prejudice and the importance of not judging by appearance. Days later, Captain Thompson called with news about Morrison. "Emma, Captain Morrison's making full recovery. He wanted me to thank you personally. I'm glad he's okay. He'd like to meet once he's released. Thank you in person." The meeting happened the following week at an airport coffee shop. Morrison was in his late 50s with silver hair and kind eyes, looking tired but healthy. "I understand I owe you my life, along with everyone else on that plane." "You don't owe me anything. I'm glad everyone made it home." They talked for an hour about aviation, military service, civilian flying challenges. Morrison was genuinely interested in Emma's background and reasons for leaving active service. "Have you thought about returning to commercial aviation?" Everyone keeps asking. "I'm not sure I'm ready." "Well, when you are, you've got many people in this industry who'd be happy to work with you." A month after the emergency, Emma received formal FAA commendation for her actions. More significantly, the incident attracted attention from former military commanders. Colonel Sarah Martinez, her old squadron commander, called, "Emma, I saw news coverage. I'm proud but not surprised. You were always one of our best." "Thank you, Colonel. Good to hear your voice." "Emma, I'm calling about a situation that could use your expertise. I know you left for personal reasons, but would you be interested in contract work?" Martinez explained the Air Force was developing new emergency training protocols and wanted someone with both military and civilian experience. It wouldn't involve combat missions, just training development and instruction. Emma was intrigued. The project would let her use skills without dangerous situations. "Let me think about it." "Of course. But Emma, what you did reminded us why we were lucky to have you. Your country could use those skills again." After the call, Emma thought more seriously about her future than she had in months. The emergency had reminded her how much she missed the purpose that came with using flying skills to help others. She was receiving regular job offers from airlines and aviation companies. Her consulting business was growing as word spread about her expertise and calm under pressure. Most importantly, the incident gave her new perspective on her place in civilian society. She realized her military service and aviation skills were valuable assets, not sources of shame or things to hide. 3 months after the emergency, Emma found herself back at LAX, traveling to Washington for new Air Force contract work. At security, the same guards who'd detained her months earlier were working. Officer Martinez recognized her. "Hey, aren't you the pilot who helped with that emergency landing?" "I assisted, yes. Man, I saw that on news. That was incredible. Sorry about the hassle before, we were just doing our jobs." "I understand. No hard feelings." At the gate, boarding was calm and routine. No one questioned her documents or treated her with suspicion. She'd learned to travel with confidence, no longer trying to be invisible. Boarding the aircraft, Emma was greeted by the captain who'd recognized her name on the manifest. "Ms. Rodriguez, honor to have you aboard. I heard about the United flight." "Thank you, Captain. I'm sure it'll be smooth today." As the plane taxied for takeoff, Emma reflected on everything that had changed since that difficult day. The harassment and discrimination were still wrong, and she knew many people continued facing similar treatment. But the experience had shown her something important. Her skills and background were valuable. She had something meaningful to contribute, and she didn't need to hide who she was or what she'd accomplished. The aircraft lifted off smoothly, climbing into clear morning sky above Los Angeles. Emma watched the city disappear below and thought about work waiting in Washington, developing training programs to help future pilots handle emergencies. She was returning to service differently than before, but with purpose. The woman who'd been harassed and humiliated at this same airport was now heading to the nation's capital to share expertise with the next generation of military aviators. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Emma opened her laptop and reviewed training materials for her new position. She had work to do, lives to impact, skills to share. The harassment had been wrong and hurtful, but it had also led her to rediscover her sense of purpose. Sometimes the worst experiences lead to the most meaningful outcomes. Emma Rodriguez was no longer hiding her light under a bushel. She was ready to shine. 1 year after Flight 892, the incident continued having ripple effects throughout aviation and beyond. First Officer Stevens had been promoted to captain ahead of schedule. He often spoke about Emma's role in his development and became an advocate for better emergency training. Captain Morrison had returned to flying after full recovery and incorporated lessons from his emergency into pilot training programs. He regularly told Emma's story to new pilots, emphasizing staying calm under pressure. The airline implemented new policies regarding passenger assistance during emergencies, formally recognizing that qualified passengers could provide valuable crisis support. Most significantly, the incident sparked broader conversations about discrimination and prejudice in travel and society. Civil rights organizations used Emma's story as an example of how unconscious bias and stereotyping could lead to innocent people's mistreatment. Airport security protocols were being reviewed to ensure additional screening was based on genuine security concerns rather than profiling. Emma had become a reluctant public figure. She continued receiving speaking requests from aviation organizations, women's groups, and diversity training programs. While preferring to focus on work rather than publicity, she occasionally accepted invitations to speak about leadership, crisis management, and overcoming adversity. Her Air Force training program work had been highly successful. Emergency response protocols she helped develop were being implemented across multiple military installations, with early results showing significant improvements in pilot performance during simulated emergencies. Emma had also quietly begun flying again, not commercial flights, but private aircraft for consulting and personal travel. The joy of flying had returned gradually, and helping others through aviation gave her the sense of purpose she'd been missing. 1 year after the incident, Emma received a letter that brought tears to her eyes. It was from a young Latina woman who'd read about her story. "Dear Ms. Rodriguez, I am a college student studying to become a pilot. When I read about what you did and how you were treated before I saw myself, I have faced similar discrimination about whether I belong in aviation. Your story gave me strength to continue pursuing my dream. Thank you for showing me that our backgrounds and experiences make us stronger, not weaker. I hope to be as brave and skilled as you someday." Emma kept that letter in her office, along with dozens from aspiring pilots, military personnel, and people who'd faced various discrimination. The story of Flight 892 had become more than just an emergency landing. It had become a reminder that heroism can come from unexpected places, that people shouldn't be judged by appearance or background, and that skills and character matter more than stereotypes and assumptions. Emma Rodriguez hadn't sought to become a symbol or spokesperson. She'd simply done what she was trained to do, help people in need, regardless of how those people had treated her. But in doing so, she'd reminded everyone involved that day of an important truth. You never know who might be the person capable of saving your life.